my clients bring me these amazing stories. So one of those stories for me that really strikes is about 5 years ago, in 2013, I got a call from my colleagues at the ACLU of Pennsylvania. And the executive director had met a young man named Sean Hennessy, and Sean was in a very sad situation. Sean has two mothers, and one of them was dying of terminal cancer after a very long battle. And that's a sad enough scenario, but it's not the story that they wanted us to tell. The issue is that this was in a time before we had marriage equality in Pennsylvania, which is so nicely a memory, but it's still not a distant enough memory. So the two mothers' names are Mary Beth and Maureen. And Mary Beth was the one who was passing away. And she was a successful small business person, and she was the breadwinner. Maureen had taken the role of being the stay-at-home mom and the homemaker, and that's how they had divided up their household, a very traditional household in that way. And so with Mary Beth's passing, they'd been together, I think it was nearly 3 decades, and married, I want to say it was 2 decades, but it wasn't recognized in Pennsylvania. And so when Mary Beth was going to pass, Maureen was going to be in quite a situation. She would not be eligible for Social Security survivor benefits. All of her estate that Mary Beth was going to leave would be taxed as a non-spouse, which would just put her starting out this new chapter in her life at a deficit. And it was entirely unfair, unreasonable. And the amazing thing is that with these final days of being together as a family, it was really important to all of them, the whole family, to share this story so that others could know what was happening, what it means to a normal family to have to go through this unfair treatment. So I was invited to come and be the videographer, the director of this story. And Mary Beth had, like I said, been battling for a long time. Her cancer had metastasized. It had made it to her brain at this point. I went to go and meet the family early, both to get to know them, but also just to make sure that Mary Beth was going to be able to be on camera. Would she be able to speak for herself, or would we have to bring some other family member to tell her story for her? So going to that house, I have to tell you, I was kind of dreading it because I'm expecting this major funereal vibe. I mean, this is the last weeks of their life together. I was so wrong. This house was just full of love. Mary Beth and Maureen were clearly this wonderful couple. Their son, Sean, is charming and full of love. His sister, Carrie, an amazing person. Carrie lives right across the street. This family's on the same block. They spend all of this time together. And so I'm welcomed into the home, and they're so glad to see me. And Mary Beth was great and talkative, and later Sean told me that her energy was higher than they'd seen it in a few days because she's so passionate to make sure that her story gets out. This is her last chance to do some activism as she's going to leave this planet. So we came back within a week with our crew and interviewed Sean, interviewed Carrie, and I really can't say enough. You need amazing parents to make amazing children. Well, these are amazing children. These are really impressive people. And so then we sat down to interview Mary Beth and Maureen. And we actually did the interview in the living room with them together on the couch. And normally, as a director, I don't like interviewing 2 people at once. Because there's always this point of someone's talking, and and it's just, or sometimes it just doesn't work out very well. But I knew instinctively that I had to let them be together. And the other thing is that with Mary Beth having a little bit of challenges with language, Maureen was able to help her if she couldn't find a word. And actually, it ended up making it even more powerful the way that Maureen knew what Mary Beth was trying to say. So anytime she even began to get a little lost, she brought her right back. And we talked for 45 minutes to an hour. And I love what I get to do, but this was intense. And the love between them was so apparent. And we ended the interview, and as we were coming to a close, Mary Beth was amazing. But Maureen did start to cry a little bit. I'm not a big fan of people bawling on video. It's not useful for them, and it's not useful for telling the story. So it was a natural time to conclude, and Maureen was very sad. And I turned around and looked behind me, and I realized that everyone on my crew was just sobbing. And everyone in the room was sobbing. All my colleagues from ACLUPA. Only myself and Mary Beth were the only ones in the room that weren't bawling. And I thank them for being so brave and sharing so much and trusting. It's a lot of trust that someone gives me to share something like this, let alone in your last weeks. So I thank them, and I started to walk to the foyer to kind of clear my head, to think about what was next. And at that moment, Carrie comes bouncing in from her house across the street. She's like, "How'd it go?" And I'm like, "It was amazing." And I just broke down, and I'm just sobbing, and I run out the front door, and I'm sitting on their steps, and there's head in hands, and I'm bawling. And it was actually only then, I'd been very focused on them, it was only at that bawling moment as I'm thinking about what I had just seen and the love that I had just witnessed and what a marriage can be and what it can mean, that I connected, that this story at this moment connected directly with me, because I was about 5 months into a divorce. I was ending a 17-year relationship. And I sat on their steps and I mourned the death of my own marriage. And I don't even think that they know that they gave me that gift that day. But it was so transformative on so many levels. So we finished the shoot, we finished the video. It's actually one of the pieces I'm most proud of. Unfortunately, Mary Beth did not make it to see the end of it, but that was not a huge shock. But it was shared by ACLUPA, by National ACU, it got a lot of views, and Maureen ended up becoming party to the Whitewood v. Wolf case that did eventually bring marriage equality to this Commonwealth. And somewhere during the case, I get a call at one point from my colleague at ACLU. They're like, "We need all of the underlying footage." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's weird. What's up?" So the video had been played as evidence during the case, and then as part of discovery, the other side wanted to see all the underlying footage so that they could know that we hadn't manipulated the story. I'm like, "Okay, sure." So we sent it all in, and several months later, we're in 2014, I think, and Whitewood v. Wolf, we won. We have marriage equality in this state, for which I have to say, yeah, how about it? Thank goodness for a little sanity for once. I remember sanity. So for me, what's really cool is to know that somewhere in some legal box, in some file, in some courthouse in Pennsylvania, all the work that we did together that day is sitting filed away. And within a few weeks, I found myself standing on Independence Mall, looking at Independence Hall, and out on Market Street were 5 couples. And it was the first group wedding happening after Whitewood v. Wolf. And the center couple were my best friends, Chaz and Rob, who were able to get married after having been together for well over a decade. And they got married and they kissed and everyone cheered, and it was an amazing, amazing moment. And they came back off Market Street and were hugging and kissing and celebrating. And then the Pride Parade starts. And in my memory, the first group that comes down is the ACLU of PA, and leading the pack are all my friends and colleagues from the organization. And standing tall, if you've ever met Sean, he has this giant hair. And standing tall is Sean, and he's got his mom Maureen with him, and they're right in the front. And I'm hugging Chaz and Rob, and I'm looking at Sean and Maureen. And that moment, that I had any part in that moment, that is the single greatest moment in my entire career. Thank you.